بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to episode 48 of the series The Authentic Statements of the Companions عنهم. In this episode we'll take what Amr bin Maimun rahimahullah narrated. This tabi'i is talking about Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. He said, I've never missed Ibn Mas'ud on every Thursday evening. Abdullah Mas'ud on Thursday evenings used to teach his students, teach the tabi'een. He said, Amr bin Maimun, he's saying, I never missed him, not a Thursday, except that I'd come to him to learn from him. And I never used to hear him say about anything, قال Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet sallam said this. He never used to say this. In other words, he'd teach them what he learned from the Prophet sallam, but he wouldn't quote the Prophet ﷺ. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu wouldn't quote the Prophet ﷺ directly. Until one night, one evening, Abdullah Mas'ud said, قال Rasulullah ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ said, and then he stopped. Amr bin Maimun said, I looked at him and I saw him, he was standing up. The buttons of his shirt, his shirt was unbuttoned, the buttons were loose, and his eyes were filled with tears, and his veins on his neck were puffy, were standing out. The veins on his neck. He was crying. He was such in a distressed position. The veins on his neck, standing out, they're puffed out, his eyes filled with tears. And then he said, أو دون ذلك, or less than that. أو فوق ذلك, or a bit more than that. أو قريبا من ذلك, or close to that. أو شبيه من ذلك, or very similar to that. He was very cautious. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu was very cautious when narrating from the Prophet ﷺ. When quoting the Prophet ﷺ, he was very cautious. He was so worried, scared. He was crying. He was so cautious and careful, warning the people, even though he heard it from the Prophet ﷺ directly, and he's quoting him directly, and he was certain of what the Prophet ﷺ said, but he was very cautious when quoting the Prophet ﷺ and relating it to others. He said, or close to that, or similar to that. He's afraid maybe he added a letter, or he knows he's quoting him, the Prophet ﷺ, very accurately, very precisely. He's not adding anything on purpose, not intentionally. But he's afraid maybe, he forgot to mention something the Prophet ﷺ said. Or he didn't pause where the Prophet ﷺ paused. Or he added maybe unintentionally a letter here or took out a letter there. To see how cautious and careful they were. And they were the best of people in terms of, their trustworthiness and narrating from the Prophet ﷺ. These are the companions. They learned it directly from him. They heard it directly from him. And he had to show you how precise they were when narrating from the Prophet ﷺ. That they didn't even want to unintentionally not even add or take out the smallest of things that we would even think much of. It wouldn't change the meaning of the hadith. It wouldn't change, anything. It's the same thing. But to say, well, that's how what the Prophet ﷺ said, or close to it, or similar to it. To at least mention a disclaimer. Mention a disclaimer when they're being very cautious when they're relating from the Prophet ﷺ. In another narration from Muhammad bin Sirin, rahimahullah, also he said about Anas bin Malik, radiallahu anhu, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, said if he used to relate from the Prophet ﷺ a hadith, when he's done relating it, he'd say, أو كما قال Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he's done, Anas radiallahu anhu, he's done narrating a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, when he's done relating it, he'd say, or as the Prophet ﷺ had said. In other words, maybe this if this was any way slightly different than what the Prophet ﷺ said, as the Prophet ﷺ had said. He said this, or as he had said. Again, to show us the cautiousness and how careful the companions were when relating ahadith and quoting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we see today the contrast to that, people narrating things, attributing to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam left and right, even if it's not authentic, even if it's completely fabricated, has no chain, has no basis, not even found in any of the books of hadith, and people left and right narrating things from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, narrating a hadith, relating things to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, quoting him, and it's not even true. It's not even true. So compare that, or rather contrast that to how the companions narrated from the Prophet ﷺ that which they heard, and they were trustworthy, and they were reliable in what they related from the Prophet ﷺ, and they heard it directly from him, and that they were still very cautious and careful when narrating to a hadith and quoting the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Barakallahu feekum, jazakumullah khaira, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.